Okay, so here I want to talk about two basic ways that you can organize an essay, and then I want to talk about conclusions just briefly. So I think these will both be helpful to you as you think about your essay. There's two basic ways to organize a rhetorical analysis essay. So basically you can either analyze it choice by choice or section by section in a chronological way. And your sections may be divided based on tone, may be divided based on content, may be divided based on syntax, may be divided based on perspective. That there's any number of things that may indicate those changes. First, let me also say that the cartoon here was not my choice. I have never watched a single episode of this show. I know enough about it to know that it would be extremely painful for me to do that. But nonetheless, I do agree with the sentiment expressed in this particular image, where he says, the character here says, "Can you repeat the part about the stuff where you said all that about the things?" That's how some essays sound. Avoid that. Okay? This is our old friend ambiguous pronoun reference, right? And also just ambiguous noun references. So what is stuff, right? What is things? And so let's look at each of these examples of either choice by choice or the section by section. So when we talk about the choice by choice, right? So this is where you find the dominant rhetorical choices, usually 3 of them. You want to try and write about 3 rhetorical choices, and these may occur anywhere in the essay. Right? And then you want each paragraph of your paper then to address one of those rhetorical elements. And the evidence in your body paragraphs will come from any part of the section you're analyzing. So your first paragraph will talk about the author's ethical arguments. And you can see that examples of the ethical argument then come from a wide range of places in this essay. And so here early on, lines 35 through 36, there's an argument from ethics. And then you've got 4 others scattered throughout the passage. Then you have the types of diction that are used. So analyzing the author's elaborate use of diction to drive home their point, his point. And this you'll see in the places that are highlighted in green. So you've got 4 places. Your evidence will come from there. And then the author's argument, where he appeals to the author's emotions, is highlighted in purple, and you have 3 examples of that. So this is a choice by choice analysis. That is certainly one way that you can approach it. And then the other approach is to actually go section by section. When you analyze section by section or chronologically, you've divided the passage into certain sections based on some dominant characteristics. And so it may be a change in tone, it may be a change in subject matter, it may be a change in context, maybe a change, and you need to pick up on this as you're reading. But this is just a different way to analyze your paper, or to organize your paper. And so you want to think about which way you're going to do it. When you do it this way, you divide it into chronological sections. Each body paragraph you write would address what is happening in a given section of the text that you're analyzing. And then the evidence in your body paragraphs would be the dominant rhetorical choices from that section. Now, the difficulty, the primary challenge with this approach is that you are going to be tempted to do a lot more summary when you use this approach. And so you want to be extremely careful that you do not summarize when you're using a section by section or chronological approach. And you also want to be careful that your thesis sentence is clear in the approach that you're taking, so that your audience knows that this is not just an accident, right? You didn't just stumble into this, but that you planned to approach it in this way. Now, let me talk a little bit about conclusions, because conclusions, I think, are the hardest part of an essay to write well. We often spend a lot of time talking about introductions, and those are important and good, but conclusions tend to be overlooked. And that's to the detriment of the writing. So a good conclusion will typically be 1 to 2 sentences, and it will summarize your essay. Right? So you'll say, this is what I did, and without saying this is what I did. You never want to talk about your essay directly, but you do want to in some way refer back to what's happened. Right? A better conclusion, a great conclusion, may be a little bit longer. It will summarize the essay, but it will also include one of the following elements. So it may make a reference to the broader significance of the paper, and this could come through talking about the context, the bigger context. It could come through making a connection to another major idea or major part of human experience. It could come by talking about the implications. How should the audience respond to this? How should the world around us be different because of this? So some appropriate comment to that effect, or to the effect stated there, is what you're looking for in general. Another way to conclude effectively would be to use a compelling image. So create an image in the mind of your reader. This shows your own rhetorical ability, which is good. And it's also just an effective way to conclude. You could also link back to your introduction. Now, and this says 3 or 4 sentences. I think you could accomplish a couple of these even in 2 sentences. So you don't need an extremely long conclusion in order to do these things. But I do think that a conclusion that does one of these 3 things, or multiples of these things, is going to be much stronger. So just to look at some examples here. So this is an example to an essay that you looked at before, which was analyzing a speech by Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. And so in the first example it says, while we have made advances in gender equality, more can be done to effectively break the glass ceiling restricting women. So this is the larger significance, right? This is the larger significance being addressed. Then it says, in her commencement address to the graduating class at Mount Holyoke College, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright models the power women can yield. So there you have a summary, right? A summary of what she said, a summary of the essay, but also it talks about one of her appeals, right? She's modeling this. And then by contrasting hypotheticals with reality, providing anecdotes of women facing adversity and encouraging the graduates to persevere, Albright motivates and inspires the women to make a difference regardless of the challenges they face. So what you have here is the summary, right? continuing the summary and of what's been said in the essay. So this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this as a conclusion, as long as the essay is long enough that this is not redundant. If the essay was very short, this level of summary would be pointless and would frankly be annoying to the reader, because they'd be like, well, I just read that, I know that, you've said that multiple times already. But hopefully it's been long enough and this is worded in a fresh way. It's not the exact same thing as the author has, as the reader has already heard. Look at this other example. This example, I think, is distinctively better, and we'll talk about why. The young women, clad in their caps and gowns and anxious for an uncertain world, were eager to glean advice from Albright's words as a beacon to guide their future. This is much better, right? The wording is better here. It's more effective. It's more carefully chosen. It's simply a more intriguing conclusion. And the imagery that's used is also effective. It paints something in your mind. Your imagination follows. You become engaged. It wakes you up. And it's just a better way to end. In her commencement address to the graduating class of Mount Holyoke College, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright models the power women can yield. By contrasting hypotheticals with reality, providing anecdotes of women facing adversity, and encouraging students to persevere, Albright motivates and inspires the women to make a difference regardless of the challenges they face. This part of it, the summary, is very much like what was stated in the other conclusion, but the conclusion is just better because of the images, the compelling images, and if you'd read the essay, there's also a connection to the introduction that's made here that is effective and brings it sort of in full circle. So those are just some things that I think you can do to make your conclusions more effective.